Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wake Up Call with Anh Tay Nha. Today, I want to talk about two things: integrity and self love. I really believe these things go hand in hand, and that's why I wanted to tie them together. Um, of course, I'm always drawing on my personal experiences to realize things that maybe need to be discussed, or ideas or seeds that maybe need to be planted that can help us all to evolve and grow. Um, we will be able to come out of lockdown and this pandemic when we evolve. But we're not going to be able to move backwards. So I really just want to focus on moving forward. Excuse me. The first thing, self love. This is something that is really paramount to you living a quality life, a free life, a happy life. Nothing will bring you happiness more than loving yourself. And I have long held a belief that I needed to love myself more than anyone else could possibly love me. And that has allowed me to not look for external approval in the things that I do, even in the things that I post. You know, I've gotten some feedback about my videos, and some people have valid suggestions, but for me, I'm not here to placate to the lowest common denominator. I'm not taking this time to discuss things or bring up subjects like pop culture or, celebrity gossip. It's really not at all part of who I am. It doesn't align with my integrity. And I don't want to use other people's lives as uh, entertainment or as a way to connect with all of you. I want to connect with my tribe. I want to connect with people that want to have a discussion, that want to spend their time and energy contemplating things changing and growing. So, on self love, as I said, I've long believed that I should love myself more than anyone else could love me. And so, my first example, of course, was my mother. As I've said in previous videos, I have a really incredible mother, and she worked really hard when we were young to not only provide for us, but to really love us in a way that allowed us to flourish and grow. And so that was my first sort of measuring stick as far as where I should place myself and how much I should love myself. Again, it has allowed me not to take abuse from people. It allows me to walk away from situations and from people that aren't positive for me and that aren't going to be good. It's kept me from being trapped long term in unhealthy relationships, although I won't say I've never been in one or three, but in the end, I always chose myself. I always chose to protect myself and to love myself. And I truly believe that when you put yourself in that place in life, it will allow you to attract people who will love you the same and who will revere and look to you in the very same way. So, anybody who out there feels lonely and maybe they're looking for a partner, I really encourage you just to love yourself. Focus on your goals. Focus on what you want to make your life great. And trust me, as soon as you're doing really well, the universe will bring someone along to make it difficult. I say that because for me, when I love somebody, I really put them ahead of everything else. And it hasn't always served me well. And so I've had to work on that and, create a balance. But I do know that if you don't love yourself, you cannot love somebody else. If you don't know how to respect yourself, it is impossible to fully respect someone else. Respecting them doesn't mean letting them get away with whatever they want. It doesn't mean letting them walk on you. It just means that You are not going to accept second best. You're not going to stay in a relationship or a cycle where communication doesn't exist, because you have already learned to love yourself, to communicate with yourself, to face yourself in the mirror, to accept yourself, and to overcome the struggles inside of you. When you've done that, it becomes very easy to face struggles with another person. Although the challenge there is that then you have their opinion and their perspective to deal with. If you have learned to face everything inside of you, you're not going to be willing to accept less than that. You're not going to be willing to have a relationship where communication doesn't exist and problems are shoved into the corner and the little dark spots in your life. So I truly, truly think that we should be teaching our children to love and value themselves, to believe in themselves, to believe that, the sky's not the limit, the edge of the universe is. There's really no limit, because human potential is, beyond anything that we currently understand. So I really think that this is a principle that if we learn it early in life, we will be much happier and much more free. Your decisions will be based on what's best for you and what props up, what supports that self-love, versus gaining approval from parents and choosing a career path based on what they want, or not living in your truth because it might upset your community, your church, your family, whatever. So I really think that you should encourage yourself, your friends, your children to put themselves first, to love themselves first. It's just like on an airplane. They tell you, put your mask on first and then help the person beside you. The point of that is that you may pass out while you're helping the next person. But if you have helped yourself and the next person passes out, you can help them because you are in a place to provide support and help to others. But if you have not put your oxygen mask on, you're really not going to survive long enough to help those around you, to support your community, and to be an example of the kind of love that I'm talking about here. So I really would love to see more people loving themselves and to stop searching for external validation. Now, that validation may come from your professors at school. Maybe you really love to study and you really love to get a good grade. You're still looking for that external validation rather than knowing, I know this information, I own this information. It may come from your parents or other members of your family that you want them to approve of you and the decisions you've made. I struggled with that until just a few years ago. It took me a long time to let go of wanting to make other people proud and to just want to make myself proud. I had to let go of trying to reach a goal so that I could do other things for the people that I loved and get their approval that way. So, same with your parents. Unfortunately, a lot of people have children not to raise someone free, not to raise someone to love themselves and to flourish, but to do what they couldn't do as a child or to do what they want you to do. Honoring your family is best achieved by honoring yourself. When you love yourself, you will be happy. And even if it's a struggle in the beginning while you deal with their disapproval or they feel like they're losing power, so as I discussed in other videos, people don't just let it go, do they? They fight and kick and scream and yell and judge and say hateful things. So you have to go through that storm as you pull away. But in the end, if you follow your own path and you're truly happy, somebody that truly loves you are going to be much, much happier. You may look for validation from Facebook or Instagram, posting, whatever photos to feel sexy and good about yourself. That's fine. That's just part of life. We all want to feel attractive, and until you get to a certain place in your life, you may need some external validation. But please don't base your personality on that. Don't prop yourself up with that. You know, people these days, they want to be an influencer rather than, an astronaut, doctor, horticulturalist, plumber. You know, everybody has a different dream for their future and their life, and no one dream is more valid or important than the other. Everybody's path is so valid and so beautiful, and we all don't need to share the same path. I'm glad people don't have the goals that I do, because then every time I've moved around the world, everybody would have been there. Everybody would have been competing with me rather than me competing with myself and trying to do better. So, because I love myself, it allows me to have healthy, positive relationships in my life. It allows the people in my life to see, they maybe make a mistake or they cross me, and they see my reaction. They see me stand up for myself and to say, that is not going to jive. That is not going to work for me. And then they have the opportunity to continue that behavior or stop it, just depending on how much they value my presence in their life. That goes along with integrity. If you love yourself the most, integrity will naturally come. It will naturally be something that you value. Recently, as we launch a business that I'm so excited about here to bring to Vietnam, I have been working with box and bag and tissue printers, people that are going to print the marketing materials and the supplies that I need for my business. It has been so frustrating. And even today, I got a message from the bag printer because we went on restriction a while ago. They sort of stopped replying. They weren't at work, so no problem. And they messaged me today and said, "Do you need boxes and bags?" And I replied and I said, "Of course I do. We've exchanged over 100 messages about this. Why would you ask me that?" And it's been very difficult to work with these people. And the reason is because I know who I'm dealing with. I know exactly where I am. So I did all of the graphic design, all of the layout, everything on my own. I created all the graphics in the exact size they needed to be for the boxes, for the bags, and the exact colors, everything perfect. They see this, but what they send back to me is not at all what I sent them. It's very blurry. The colors on the inside of the box and the outside of the box don't match. On the bottom of the box, you couldn't read a single word. And on the bottom, there's a lot of information about all the different products and what is in them. And I did get frustrated. After I did all that work myself, which actually I'm paying them for, I'm paying them a design fee that cannot be deleted, and I already did the work. So when you see that and you send back to me something that's illegible, I don't understand the lack of integrity there. That if you had just done it right the first time, if you had created your mock-up and looked at what I sent you and saw they weren't exactly the same, you shouldn't send that to me. You should take more time. Even if you send me a message and say, the printer or the designer, he did the mock-up and it came back, it doesn't match, so I'm not going to show it to you. Great. Please don't waste my time. But what has happened is, because there's such a lack of integrity in people doing their job, I have had to ask for the same things over and over and over and over and over. Dozens, literally dozens of times, saying the same thing. This is not the color. This is so blurry. This does not match what I sent you. In one case, the graphic for the top of the box was hanging over the edge of the box on one side this much. So there was no balance, there was no symmetry there, and I cannot wrap my mind around that lack of integrity. The reason why, because of the way that I was raised and because of the agreements and decisions I've made in my life. My parents taught me a long time ago, because I used to be lazy when I was young. And my parents taught me, if you're going to touch something, touch it one time. Just do it correctly the first time so you don't have to touch it again. So that no one can come back to you and say, this isn't correct, this isn't what I asked for. You don't have to waste time. You can focus on moving forward, getting new business, or a project that's maybe much more challenging where your customer didn't do your job for you. But instead, it's this constant repetition of the same information. And each time I say, I don't know why this wasn't noticed. I don't know why you're not looking at what I sent you compared to what you're sending me and seeing they don't match up. But because there's a lack of integrity there, they don't understand why I'm saying that. They don't understand that they should have just done it right the first time. Or the challenges that we're facing should be things that, maybe I wasn't aware of that would come up in the design process. They shouldn't be things that are very obvious and self-explanatory. Same with my tissue printer. I was really grateful actually to receive some unexpected samples, but because I had created the graphic for them in the exact correct size, when it came and instead of yellow it was green, what do I say to that? How do I not become frustrated when I did the work for you? When I literally taught myself graphic design so that I could create the marketing materials and the characters for my business. And then I taught myself more about graphic design, how to create a pattern and how to do these different things. So I worked really, really hard to do your job. And why didn't you just look at your sample and look at what I sent and then see, this is not the same, so I'm not going to send this. I'm not going to waste my money to mail this to this person because it's not the same. I know he's not going to like it. But instead of just knowing that, here, So I get this feeling that it's like, oh, maybe they'll just approve it and I won't have to do it correctly. I won't have to spend the energy to do it well because I'm going to somehow sneak this by them. They're just going to look and say it's approved. And then they're going to be stuck with, 3,000 sheets of tissue and 500 boxes and 500 bags, rather than, hey, this is not what this person asked me to do. We are communicating in two languages, right? And thankfully my partner is also my business partner. So there is a description in Vietnamese and a description in English, and then a very clear graphic. So even this morning, I thought working with you is a nightmare. Like, I'd almost rather pay more because I don't want to keep repeating myself. I'm not a fan of that at all. Only when I'm teaching children do I not mind repeating myself. But when it comes to adults, we really shouldn't have to repeat ourselves to each other, especially when someone is paying you to do a job. We are trying to get all of our products locally, whether it's a food product, our bag, printing, whatever it is. We want to support businesses in our community. We want to prop up our community and put people before profits. It costs 5 times as much to have it done locally, to buy product locally, but that is a commitment that we've made to ourselves and to our community here. But when I even send one single email to a printer from another online website where they're not based in Vietnam, the result they send back to me is perfect the first time. Why? Because they are trying to get business. They are trying to close those deals and move on to the next. They don't want to send endless emails. They don't want to chat through Messenger all day, every day. And I don't either. So what happens is that because there's this lack of integrity, it starts to push people like me with a high level of integrity and a busy schedule to decide, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can get it done cheaper, and it would have been done already had I gone through the website and done it in another country, versus, just struggling and begging people to give them my business here. And that is what happens, is you're begging someone, please follow through, please do this, and honestly, that's really not what I'm about. I'm really not. I don't expect my customers to beg me. I expect to meet and exceed their expectations every time. And of course, I'm going to fail sometimes, but it won't be a consistent failure over and over with the same person that will drive them away from my business forever, that will drive them to, make negative reviews or say negative things about my business. With the company I'm working with now, will we do another order with them? Probably not. It's been too hard and too much of a challenge, and I feel like my continued business is a gift. I am trying to share my profit with you. But if I have to work so hard for you to do something quite simple, I'm not that likely to ask you again unless it's an emergency. So in the future, we will order ahead, or create a longer timeline so that we don't have to face such struggles until we find someone who can do something correctly the first time and let us and them move on to something else. I say integrity and self-love go hand in hand because if you love yourself, you want to do your best. You want to be an example of that love and of how amazing you are. So you do your best the first time. You listen to your customers. You respond to them accordingly. I've often found here that if I send a business email, if there is more than one question in it, only the last question or the first question get addressed. It's one question. If there's a number 2, no more GB left. Memory overload. The system has crashed. And for me, that is a huge waste of time. But I adjust to that because that is the way that things work where I am. So I say one thing, I wait for an answer. I say another, I wait for an answer. But it just takes so much time to get the simplest things done. So that is why I want to promote people loving themselves and raising that level of integrity. Do your best each day, and your best is going to change each day. So tomorrow, episode 6, we're going to talk about doing your best. It's one of the 4 agreements, but it is a very amazing principle to live by, and it's quite easy. It's easier than you think. It's easier than it sounds initially, and so I'm really excited to talk about that tomorrow. I hope that everybody has an incredible week. We're starting to get some good news here about our COVID cases, so I'm really hoping that maybe after another week, I can go out and I can start making other types of videos and start to really fill my channel with not only these things that I feel are important and they're principles that I want to enlighten and initiate change with people, but I can show you the incredible place that I live. I can show you some of the awesome businesses that I found here, and I can even use going out to highlight things that are going to help my community. I want to use things as an example and businesses and people as an example, not to defame or destroy them, but to highlight things that my community needs to recognize so that we can move forward, so that we can be stronger. Vietnam, January 2020, passed free trade with the EU. So there's going to be a huge influx of European businesses and owners coming here. And before that happens, I really want to inspire my community to step up their game so that we are not overtaken by foreign wealth and foreign management, that we can stand on our own 2 feet, that we can support each other, and that we can outdo the competition before it even comes up. Thank you for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment, find me on Facebook, send me a message, anything you want to do to communicate. I want to thank everybody for the support so far and the messages. I've really enjoyed interacting with some of you and you all sharing with me some of the struggles you need in your life and some maybe, I don't want to call it advice, but maybe just some perspective or some insight based on my own beliefs. It doesn't mean it's true for you, but it could be something that will create a thought process that will allow you to be more happy and free. And that's all that I want from everybody. If we're all happy and free, there's not going to be any more Karens. There's not going to be a 1% keeping their thumb on us. We're all going to be happy with our vegetable garden or our CEO job or whatever your dream is. It's valid, it's important, and no one is allowed to diminish or demean your dream. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.